Buddha's teaching, chapter-2, part-2. The ways of practice. For those who seek enlightenment, there are 3 ways of practice that must be understood and followed. First, disciplines for practical behavior. Second, right concentration of mind. And third, wisdom. What are disciplines? Everyone, whether he is a common man or a way seeker, should follow the precepts for good behavior. He should control both his mind and body and guard the gates of his 5 senses. He should be afraid of even a trifling evil and from moment to moment should endeavor to practice only good deeds. What is meant by the concentration of mind? It means to get quickly away from greedy and evil desires as they arise and to hold the mind pure and tranquil. What is wisdom? It is ability to perfectly understand and to patiently accept the fourfold noble truth, to know the fact of suffering and its nature, to know the source of suffering, to know what constitutes the end of suffering, and to know the noble path that leads to the end of suffering. Those who earnestly follow these 3 ways of practice may rightly be called the disciples of Buddha. Suppose a donkey that has no nice shape, no voice, and no horns, like those of the cow, was followed a herd of cows and proclaiming, "Look, I am also a cow." Would any one believe him? It is just as foolish when a man doesn't follow the 3 ways of practice but boasts that he is a way seeker or a disciple of Buddha. Before a farmer gathers a harvest in the fall, he must first plough the ground, sow the seed, irrigate, and remove the weeds as they come up in the springtime. Likewise, the seeker of enlightenment must follow the 3 ways of practice. A farmer cannot expect to see the birds today, to see the plants tomorrow, and to gather the harvest the day after. So, a man who seeks enlightenment cannot expect to remove worldly desires today, to remove attachments and evil desires tomorrow, and to get enlightenment the day after. Just as plants receive the patient care of the farmer after the seed has been sown and during the changes of climate and during the growth from plant to fruit, so the seeker of enlightenment must patiently and perseveringly cultivate the soil of enlightenment by following the 3 ways of practice. It is difficult to advance along the path that leads to enlightenment so long as one is covetous of comforts and luxuries and his mind disturbed by the desires of the senses. There is a wide difference between the enjoyment of life and the enjoyment of the true path. As already explained, the mind is the source of all things. If the mind enjoys worldly affairs, illusions and suffering will inevitably follow. But if the mind enjoys the true path, happiness, contentment, and enlightenment will just as surely follow. Therefore, those who are seeking enlightenment should keep their minds pure and patiently keep and practice the 3 ways. If they keep the precepts, they will naturally obtain concentration of mind, and if they will obtain concentration of the mind, it will be just as natural for them to grasp wisdom, and wisdom will lead them to enlightenment. Indeed, these 3 ways, keeping the precepts, practicing concentration of mind, and always acting wisely, are the true path to enlightenment. But not following them, people have for a long time accumulated mental delusions They must not argue with worldly people, but must patiently meditate in their inner world of a pure mind in order to attain enlightenment. If the three ways of practice are analyzed, they will reveal the Eightfold Noble Path, the four viewpoints to be considered, the four right procedures, the five faculties of power to be employed, and the perfection of six practices. The Noble Eightfold Path refer to right view, right thought, right speech, right behavior, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Right view means to thoroughly understand the fourfold truth, to believe in the law of cause and effect, and not to be deceived by appearances and desires. Right thought means the resolution not to cherish desires, not to be greedy, not to be angry, and not to do any harmful deed. Right speech means the avoidance of lying words, idle words, abusive words, and double tongues. Right behavior means not to destroy any life, not to steal, or not to commit adultery. Right livelihood means to avoid any life that would bring shame. Right effort means to try to do one's best diligently toward the right direction. Right mindfulness means to maintain a pure and thoughtful mind. Right concentration means to keep the mind right and tranquil for its concentration, seeking to realize the mind's pure essence. The four viewpoints to be considered are: first, to consider the body impure, seeking to remove all attachment to it; second, to consider the senses as a source of suffering, whatever their feelings of pain or pleasure may be; third, to consider the mind to be in a constant state of flux; and fourth, to consider everything in the world as being a consequence of causes and conditions, and that nothing remains unchanged forever. The four right procedures are: first, to prevent any evil from starting; second, to remove any evil as soon as it starts; third, to induce the doing of good deeds; and fourth, to encourage the growth and continuance of good deeds that have already started. Must One must endeavor to keep these four procedures. The five faculties of power are: first, the faith to believe; second, the will to make the endeavor; third, the faculty of alertness; fourth, the ability to concentrate one's mind; and fifth, the ability to maintain clear wisdom. These five faculties are necessary parts to attain enlightenment. The perfection of six practices for reaching the other shore of enlightenment are: the path of offering, the path of keeping precepts, the path of endurance, the path of endeavor, the path of concentration of mind, and the path of wisdom. By following these paths, one can surely pass from the shore of delusion over to the shore of enlightenment. The practice of offering gets rid of selfishness. The practice of precepts keep one thoughtful of the rights and comforts of others. The practice of endurance helps one to control a fearful or angry mind. The practice of endeavor helps one to be diligent and faithful. The practice of concentration helps one to control a wander and futile mind, and the practice of wisdom changes a dark and confused mind into a clear and penetrating insight. Offering and keeping precepts make the foundation necessary to build a great castle on. Endurance and endeavor are the walls of the castle that protect it against enemies from outside. Concentration and wisdom are the personal armor that protects one against the assault of life and death. If one gives away a gift only when convenient, or because it is easier to give than not to give, it is an offering, of course, but it is not a true offering. A true offering comes from a sympathetic heart before any request is made, and a true offering is the one that gives not occasionally but constantly. Neither is it a true offering if after the act there are feelings of regret or of self praise. A true offering is one that is given with pleasure, forgetting oneself as the giver, the one who receives it, and the gift itself. True offering springs spontaneously from one's pure, compassionate heart with no thought of any return, wishing to enter into a light of enlightenment together. There are 7 kinds of offering which can be practiced by even those who are not wealthy. The first is the physical offering. This is to offer service by one's labor. The highest type of this offering is to offer one's own life, as is shown in the following story. The second is the spiritual offering. This is to offer a compassionate heart to others. The third is the offering of vows. This is to offer a warm glance to others, which will give them tranquility. The fourth is the offering of countenance. This is to offer a soft countenance with smile to others. The fifth is the oral offering. This is to offer kind and warm words to others. The sixth is the seat offering. This is to offer one seat to others. The seventh is the offering of shelter. This is to let others spend the night at one's home. These kinds of offerings can be practiced by anyone in everyday life. Once there was a prince named Satva. One day he and his 2 elder brothers went to a forest to play. There they saw a famished tigress, which was evidently tempted to devour her own 7 cubs to satisfy her hunger. The elder brother ran away in fear, but Sattva climbed up a cliff and threw himself over it to the tigress in order to save the lives of the baby tigers. Prince Sattva did this charitable act spontaneously, but within his mind he was thinking, "This body is changing and impermanent. I have loved this body with no thought of throwing it away, but now I make it an offering to this tigress so that I may gain enlightenment." This thought of Prince Sattva shows the true determination to gain enlightenment. There are 4 unlimited states of mind that the seeker of enlightenment should cherish. They are compassion, tenderness, gladness, and equanimity. One can remove greed by cherishing compassion. One can remove anger by tenderness. One can remove suffering by gladness. And one can remove the habit of discrimination of enemies and friends by cherishing an equitable mind. It is a great compassion that makes people happy and contented. It is a great tenderness that removes everything that doesn't make people happy and contented. It is a great gladness that makes everyone happy and contented with a mind of joy. There is a great peacefulness when everyone is happy and contented, and then one can have equal feelings towards everybody. With care, one may cherish these 4 unlimited states of mind and may get rid of greed, anger, suffering, and the minds of love, hate. But it is not an easy thing to do. An evil mind is as hard to get rid of as a watchdog, and a right mind is as easy to lose as a deer in a forest, or an evil mind is as hard to remove as letters carved in stones, and a right mind is as easy to lose as words written in water. Indeed, it is the most difficult thing in life to train oneself for enlightenment. There was a young man named Srona who was born in a wealthy family but was of delicate health. He was very earnest to gain enlightenment and became a disciple of the Blessed One. On the path to enlightenment, he tried so hard that finally his feet bled. The Blessed One pitied him and said, Srona, my boy, did you ever study the harp at your home? You know that a harp doesn't make music if the strings are stretched too tight or too loose. It makes music only when the strings are stretched just right. The training for enlightenment is just like adjusting the harp strings. You cannot attain enlightenment if you stretch the strings of your mind too loosely or too tightly. You must be concentrate and act wisely. Srona found these words very profitable and finally gained what he sought. Once there was a prince who was skillful in the use of the five weapons. One day he was returning home from his practice and met a monster whose skin was invulnerable. The monster started for him, but nothing daunted the prince. He shot an arrow at him which fell harmless. Then he threw his spear, which failed to penetrate the thick skin. Then he threw a bar and a javelin, but they failed to hurt the monster. Then he used his sword, but the sword broke. The prince attacked the monster with his fists and feet, but to no purpose, for the monster clutched him in his giant arms and held him fast. Then the prince tried to use his head as a weapon, but in vain. The monster said, It is useless for you to resist. I am going to devour you. But the prince answered, You may think that I have used all my weapons and I am helpless, but I still have one weapon left. If you devour me, I will destroy you from the inside of your stomach. The courage of the prince disturbed the monster, and he asked, How can you do that? The prince replied, By the power of the truth. Then the monster released him and begged for his instruction in the truth. The teaching of this fable is to encourage disciples to persevere in their efforts and to be undaunted in the face of many setbacks. Both odious self assertion and shamelessness offend mankind, but dishonor and shame protect human beings. People respect their parents, elders, brothers, and sisters because they are sensitive to dishonor and shame. After self reflection, it is meritorious to withhold honor from oneself and to feel ashamed by observing other people. If a man possesses a repentant spirit, his sins will disappear, but if he has an unrepentant spirit, his sins will continue and condemn him forever. It is only the one who hears the true teaching rightly and realizes its meaning and relation to oneself who can receive and profit by it. If a man merely hears the true teaching but doesn't acquire it, he will fail in his search for enlightenment. Faith, modesty, humbleness, endeavor, and wisdom are the great sources of strength to him who is seeking enlightenment. Among these, wisdom is the greatest of all, and the rest are but the aspect of wisdom. If a man, while in his training, loves worldly affairs, enjoys idle talk, or falls asleep, he will be retired from the path to enlightenment. In training for enlightenment, some may succeed quicker than others. Therefore, one should not be discouraged to see others becoming enlightened first. When a man is practicing archery, he doesn't expect quick success but knows that if he practices patiently, he will become more and more accurate. A river begins as a brook but grows ever larger until it flows into the great ocean. Like these examples, if a man trains with patience and perseverance, he will surely gain enlightenment. and already explained. If one keeps his eyes open, he will see the teaching everywhere, and so his opportunities for enlightenment are endless. Once there was a man who was burning incense. He noticed that the fragrance was neither coming nor going. It neither appeared nor disappeared. The trifle incident led him to gain enlightenment. Once there was a man who got a thorn stuck in his foot. He felt the sharp pain, and a thought came to him then that pain was only a reaction of the mind. From this incident, a deeper thought followed that the mind may get out of hand if one fails to control it, or it may become pure if one succeeds. From these thoughts, a little later, enlightenment came to him. There was another man who was very avaricious. One day he was thinking of his greedy mind when he realized that greedy thoughts were but shavings and kindlings that wisdom could burn and consume. That was the beginning of his enlightenment. There is an old saying, keep your mind level. If the mind is level, the whole world will be level. Consider these words. Realize that all the distinctions of the world are caused by the discriminating views of the mind. There is a path to enlightenment in those very words. Indeed, the ways to enlightenment are unlimited. Hari Om Tat Sat.